Over the last year, I've been building all 6 of the original Five Nights at Freddy's games in Minecraft and then adding working gameplay into each one by using command blocks. With every new map I made, the build became more advanced than the last one, eventually leading me to Pizzeria Simulator, which was by far the most complex and ambitious of them all. But now with the original mainline games all finished, today I'd like to start taking a look at the games from the Fazbear Fanverse initiative and recreate a night of working gameplay from each one in Minecraft, starting with Five Nights at Candy's Remastered. As the name suggests, Candy's Remastered is the 2019 remaster of the original game, which was released back in 2015 by Emil Mako, and the game is still to this day one of the most iconic and well-known FNAF fan games ever made. And though it can be seen as a simple FNAF 1 clone as the core gameplay is mostly the same, there is a lot more content put into this game, with a total of 7 different animatronics trying to get to you. The building is also slightly bigger than some of the official games, as there are 12 cameras to watch over, with a secret 13th one unlocked through beating a hidden 8th night. Similar to the FNAF games, these cameras in Candy's are the only proper look we have at the establishment, as a fully rendered map is not shown off in the game. So to fill in these gaps, I'll be using some creative freedom to build the areas we don't see, while still being faithful to the original layout. So to get started, I've outlined the entire location to mark the size and shape of the build, as well as where all of the decorations are going to be set. And just in case you want to build this for yourself, I've also placed gold blocks around it, that way you can see how big the build is. Though the gameplay in each of the games is pretty similar, the location in Candy's is much different compared to the FNAF 1 and 2 pizzerias, as this building is much more compact. So instead of just being one large party room and a few hallways, this building has a lot of separated rooms that each of the animatronics can travel through to get to the office. This includes the secret camera 13 storage room where the Rat and Shadow Candy are, as well as the small kitchen above the main stage where the penguin starts its movement path. Now, while I haven't outlined anything to do with it, we're also going to be building the exterior to the restaurant, which even though it's never going to be visible during the gameplay, it still makes a fun addition to the overall build. But with that being said, I've now gone over everything needed, so the next thing to do is to get started working on the build itself. And now with just over an hour of building later, the main structure of the location is fully finished and every detail from the game has been added. And like always, I've used some interesting building techniques to add a lot more detail than a normal block would, things like banner patterns for the posters as well as map art for the checkered patterns on the wall. Now this specific detail is something I always use for my smaller scaled FNAF builds, however I realized that I've never actually shown off how to make them. So let's quickly go ahead and check out how. Making map art is actually quite simple despite how complicated it might sound. So for this example, I'll be making the pattern used for this video, where it's a simple black and white checker pattern with a blue border on the top and bottom. The first thing you'll want to do is open up a brand new map, which now gives us our border to work in, which is a 128 by 128 square area. Now it's very important to open up a new map before you start building, as Minecraft maps are locked to show certain areas of the world, and if you build your pattern and then open up your map, the build could be off center in the frame. Once you have your map, I then recommend that you mark the 4 corners, that way you can actually see the space you have to work inside. After that, however, However, it's then just a case of filling it in with whatever you want. Now this is the part of the build where I normally use mods like World Edit to make the building process a lot faster, as building this by hand can be pretty time consuming. After you finish building your pattern, all you have to do is take an item frame and put it on any wall, and then take your map and put it onto them, and it will then show off the pattern that we've just made. Now for the Java edition of Minecraft, we're able to put 2 item frames in the same corner like this, but unfortunately this doesn't work for the Bedrock edition, so you might have to find a way to work around any corners. But that's all there is for building map art. It's a very nice and creative way of building, and it can definitely add a lot more detail to any build. Speaking of more detail, let's now move on to another form of decoration I like adding, which is custom player heads on top of an armor stand. Now the reason why I'm mentioning armor stands is because they let us have a lot more freedom with where a decoration can go. Normally only one block can be placed in a spot, but since armor stands are entities, we're able to have multiple of them in the same position, and we're also able to move them around wherever we want. I've shown this off in some older videos, but since it's been a while, this is the website I use to generate custom armor stands, which I use for decorations and even the animatronics. On the left is what the armor stand looks like, and on the right are all of the different customization options that we can apply to it. For now we're just going to do a simple decoration and make the desk fan in the office. So let's first make the armor stand invisible and then remove the base plate, that way only the custom player head is visible when we put one on it. Then we'll go ahead and disable the armor stand's gravity, that way we're able to move it up and down without it falling. Now we're going to be skipping over these next 2 sections since they're not needed for this decoration, so the next step is going to be giving this armor stand an entity tag, and this is pretty important as it allows us to differentiate the armor stand if we connect it to a command block. So with this being the armor stand for the desk fan, I'm just going to name this entity desk fan. And that's all we need for this decoration, so what this website is now going to do is generate the summon command for us, that way we're able to copy it and paste it in game. So back in Minecraft, if we go ahead and put the command in chat, the armor stand has now been summoned in front of us, so let's go ahead and put the custom player head on it, and you can see that we only see the desk fan. So what we can now do is teleport this armor stand on top of the desk, that way it makes it look like the head is just sitting on top of it. And after a little bit of messing around, I've now got the desk fan to be where it should be. And this is exactly what we're going to be doing for every other prop and decoration, as even just on the desk there are a lot of different props that wouldn't be able to fit there if a normal block was just placed on top of it. So now with a few more armor stands added, we can see how much more alive this build looks. And I didn't just do this to the office, as if we go around the entire building again, you'll notice more player heads placed around that make this build stand out a lot more than it did before this. And if you're curious in trying any of these building methods for yourself, I'll leave the links to all of the tools I use in the description, that way you can try this out for yourself. But that now wraps up all of the building and decorating of this project, so now it's finally time to add in the actual gameplay and fully recreate a night of Five Nights at Candy's Remastered in this Minecraft world. First things first, I always like to start with the office mechanics, so let's take a look at the 3 doors in front of us. Now this is going to be pretty straightforward, as what we want is the office door to close whenever we push the button, and then for it to open back up when we push it again. Now since blocks in Minecraft can't move on their own, we need different builds to act as each frame of the door's opening and closing animation. So the first frame is when the door is open, and every build after that adds another set of blocks to the door until it's fully closed. Now the black concrete is also a part of the door frame, as what it does is stops the player from looking through it if the door is open during the night. Now as I mentioned, Minecraft blocks can't move, so what we need to do is clone each one of these frames up into the office in a set order, that way it makes it look like the door is opening and closing. And this chain of command blocks here does just that, with each one copying a single frame of the door up into the office. This is done by taking the top left and bottom right coordinate of each door frame, and then the coordinate of where the build is getting copied to. So with the animation set up, we can now add the input to it, and this is going to be done by using this execute command, which is looking for when the block at this coordinate is a powered warped button. This will then send an output through this comparator to power these command blocks, which is then going to clone each one of these frames up into the office to give the door its closing animation. So to test this out, when we press this button, you can now see how the different door frames make it look like the right door just closed. So now all we need to do is add another input to let us open the door back up again. This second setup is a little different compared to the first input command, as instead of looking for a powered warped button, this next command block is looking for a powered birch button. And that's because every time we close the door, the button has a slight glow to it to indicate that the door is closed. So we've done that by replacing the warped button with one with a lighter color. However, since each command block is looking for a different type of button, we need one more command block at the end of each row that replaces the button every time we use it. So once the animation has finished playing, this set block command is going to replace the button with the one needed to power the opposite setup. So one more time, if we press the warped button, the office door is going to close, but now it changes the button to a birch one. So now we can go ahead and press this button to open the door back up, which now changes the button back to a warped one again. And that's all that's needed to get the doors to work. So now I've gone ahead and done this for the other two doors, where by using the exact same system as the first one, we're able to open and close all of the doors in the office, including the ticket booth window in front of us. This is a very simple system to set up, but it's still really cool the way it works. Now I've gone over to my FNAF 1 world that I made last year to compare the two different door designs, as the system we've just made is actually a lot more efficient than this older one. Now while the clone commands still work in the exact same way, what I would have normally done is used a single type of door button that powers a toggle flip-flop every time an input powers it. Now the problem with this design is that it adds extra delay to the door controls, as we would have to wait for this item to cycle between the droppers and hoppers until it reaches one with a comparator outside of it. But by changing the button every time we use the door, we no longer need the toggle flip-flop, and we're now able to open and close the door almost instantly after we press the button. With the doors all finished, we're now going to move on to the camera system, and to make this easier, I've gone ahead and removed the ceiling and also marked down the position of every camera. Now I've made multiple camera designs throughout my videos, but once again I've come up with another design that I want to use for this one. My idea revolves around this single armor stand, which is what's going to be teleporting to each camera position. Now while the player still needs to teleport with it, the armor stand is going to be staying where it is even when we go back to the office, which makes sure that the same camera is already selected whenever we use it again. Now instead of having all of the cameras accessible at once, this build has a toggle mechanic that we need to use to be able to get the different cameras. So these two command blocks here are detecting when the player throws the toggle items we have set up, with the first one called open camera and the other called close camera. And whenever we throw either one, the opposite item is going to be given back to us. That way we're always able to open and close them. So now with the TP command added, when we throw the first item we get teleported to the camera position, and this is when the rest of the camera options would be given to us. Then if we want to go back to the office, we just throw the new item that we've been given, which is now going to teleport us back to the office underneath this new armor stand. Now you might be wondering why it's floating, but it's like this for a reason that we'll take a look at later. Now that the cameras can be opened, I've now made the setup to let us cycle between them all, and we're going to be doing that by throwing these different items. But before we look at the command blocks themselves, I first need to go over some background that involves some scoreboard commands. These are very useful commands that essentially let us sort out all of these command blocks into different groups, and will only power them when we want them to. So for the camera system, there are 3 scoreboard objectives set up, which each help organize the commands to power at the right time. The first objective is the camera page, or cam page for short, and this is what decides what set of cameras needs to be given to the player. Since there are 13 cameras but we only have 9 slots in our hotbar, there needs to be a way to let us toggle between the first set of cameras and the last few. So all of these command blocks here are going to give us cameras 1 through 7 if we flip up the camera, but only if page 1 is active. Then later what we can do is add another set of command blocks on top of this that give us the remaining 6 cameras, but only if page 2 is active. No matter which page is active, however, when we disable the cameras, all of these command blocks here are going to remove all the items from our inventory. This brings us to the second objective, which is called is cam on, which is telling every command block whether we're currently looking at the cameras or if we're just standing in the office. This once again plays a big part in the entire camera system, as if we return to the office and our inventory is cleared of items, these command blocks would think that we just threw every camera item at once, and we would then teleport around the entire building, which we obviously don't want to happen. Finally, the last objective is just called cam, which is short for camera, but unlike the other two objectives, this one is just for cosmetic, as what it's going to do is show us which camera we're currently on by bringing up a scoreboard at the side of the screen. So whenever we change cameras, the number is also going to change with it to fit whichever camera we're currently looking at. But now that we've gone over the scoreboards, let's actually see how this gets the cameras to work, starting with when we flip up the camera. When we do this, I mentioned that we're going to get every camera for that page. However, since we also want to open up to the last camera we had selected, these command blocks are going to give us a different item depending which camera we were on. This setup in front of us is just for camera 1, so if the cameras are turned on and we're looking at page 1, the command is going to detect at these coordinates if the camera position armor stand is standing within that block. If it is, then it's going to run this item replace command, which is going to replace the current camera item we have in our inventory with the green one from this chest. This just makes it so that way we know which camera we currently have selected. Next is the command block that lets us select a different camera, which once again starts by seeing if the cameras are currently being used. If they are, then this execute command powers, which is looking for when the player throws the item for that camera. When we do this, this chain of command blocks here is going to activate, which is first going to set our cam scoreboard to show whichever camera we're currently looking at. Then these remaining command blocks are going to replace all the items in our inventory with the black camera items from this chest. This, however, excludes the item for the camera we're currently looking at, as what we want to do is replace all the other items with the black camera items. That way the previous camera item in green isn't shown off in the inventory. Then this final command block up here is what actually teleports the armor stand to the camera position, while also taking the player with it, that way they can see from the view of the camera. And this carries over to every other setup, where if the armor stand is at a specific specific position, we'll be teleported there to start with, and then we can throw the different items to go between the first 7 cameras. Let's show this off by turning on the cameras, where we've started out by looking at the show stage. You can see that the current camera is highlighted in green, and whenever we change to a different camera, that item also changes color to let us know which camera we're currently looking at. Now let's see how the memory system works. So right now we're looking at camera 7, so if we go ahead and exit the cameras and then open them back up again, we've now been teleported back to that same position looking at camera 7. So now with the first 7 cameras added, let's now move on to see how we can access the remaining 6, and like everything else, this is going to be done by throwing an item in the inventory. So this next page item is going to be in the last slot of our hotbar no matter what page we're on, and every time we throw it, it's going to increase our page score by 1. This then powers these command blocks, which is going to give us that exact same item back, and then clears any unneeded space from the inventory. That way we only get the camera items for page 2. After that, however, the camera works in the exact same way as before, only that this time the page 2 commands will work and the page 1 commands will be unpowered. Going back to the previous page, however, has one more step to it, as we can't just simply remove the page score without confusing the system. So if the page score is already set to 2 and the player throws the item, the score is going to be set to 3 but is then instantly set back to 1. And that's because this command block is detecting if the page score is 3 or higher, which is then going to set the score back to 1 to let us reuse the system. Now with the camera controls fully added, we can go ahead and take a look at the office armor stand I brought up earlier. So first of all, the reason why it's floating is simply so that it's not in the way of the door buttons, as if it was standing on the same block as us, we wouldn't be able to click on any of them. Aside from that, however, the armor stand's purpose is to keep track of which way we were facing before we open up the cameras. Just like how the cameras take us to the last one we had selected, we can set up a way to return to the office and still be looking in the same direction as we were before we left. Now this needs another armor stand to work, which is always going to be teleporting a few blocks in front of us wherever we look. At the same time, however, the armor stand on top of us is also rotating to face the other armor stand, and both of them are going to keep on doing this until we open up the camera. This lets us set up the office teleport command to have us facing in a certain direction, which is going to be the exact same place that the floating armor stand is looking towards. So if we're looking towards the left door and we open up the camera, the moment we return to the office, we're going to be looking the same way. And this works in any other direction too, so if we open up the camera when looking towards the right side, we come back to the office looking in that same direction. Now this is actually the first time I've ever done anything like this for a camera system, but honestly it's a really important feature that lets you prepare yourself if you know an animatronic is about to be at one of the doors. That was a pretty complicated system to go over, as there are a lot of different things happening at the same time to make sure that everything works the way it should. In fact, when I designed the system a few months ago, it took me a few days just to figure out how it could all work together, but hopefully I've explained this well enough so that way you get the idea of how it all works. In the end though, this is definitely the best camera design I've made so far, and it'll most likely be the one I'll use going forward. However, we're still not quite done with the cameras just yet, as Candies has a unique feature that allows us to toggle between a night vision mode. Now throughout this video, I've already been using a night vision effect to let us see better, but we obviously don't want the final game to look like this. So let's go ahead and add in some proper lighting. In the office, our only source of light is coming from this single light block, which emits a light level of 10. The rest of the building, however, is going to be much darker, as now there's a blindness and slowness effect for whenever we use the cameras, which stops us from pretty much seeing anything in front of us. So what we want to do is make a system that removes the blindness and then adds a small amount of light to the camera, that way we're actually able to see what's going on. This here is the setup to let us toggle between the night vision mode, which instead of working by throwing an item, this works by crouching up and down. Now I've never done anything like this before, but I think that adding in new inputs like this will be very useful to learn for future projects. So when we're looking at the cameras and we've been crouching for 2 ticks or longer, the rest of the commands here are going to power, which is either then going to affect us with blindness or remove it depending which side is active. Now you might expect this to toggle an actual night vision effect to let us see better, but after playing around with that idea, I thought that it made the building a bit too bright. So instead what these command blocks are going to do is teleport this glowing armor stand to our position every time we use the night vision effect, and then teleport it away when we turn it off. As you can see, every time we crouch, the repeater only appears once the armor stand has teleported to us, and then teleports away once the repeater has been removed and these first command blocks have powered again. Now the last 3 command blocks here aren't connected to the toggle system, but this is what actually makes the armor stand glow and teleport where it should do in the first place. So these 3 command blocks are always going to stay powered no matter what. So let's check out the night vision in the actual building. So when we open up the cameras, we start out by not being able to see anything, but now when we crouch, the blindness has been removed and the glowing armor stand is teleported to us. That way we can properly see what's going on in each camera. And that light is also going to stay there even if we leave the cameras while the night vision is turned on. That way when we open up the camera again, we don't have to worry about turning the night vision back on. And if you're wondering what would happen if I were to just hold down the crouch button, the system is going to cycle between the 2 really quickly, but luckily it doesn't actually break any of the command blocks. So with the doors and cameras fully added, the next thing to do is to to add in the power system, since all of these office resources use some sort of power when we use them. Now, unlike most FNAF games that always show off the power on the screen, the way we know what percentage we have left is by looking at this monitor in the office. Now, the power in candies actually drains really slowly when not doing anything, as I was able to get to 6 AM by only using 5% of my total power. This means that even if we do nothing, we still use 1% of power every minute and 37 seconds, or 97 seconds total. But the moment we close one of the doors, that's when it's going to start to drain a lot faster. However, in Minecraft, time works a bit differently, as instead of working in minutes and seconds, we need to work with tick speed. So 1 real life second is equal to 20 ticks, meaning we need to multiply the time in candies by 20 to get the Minecraft version of it. And when we do that, we can figure out that 1% of power will always drain every 1940 ticks. And with that number, we can now accurately recreate the power system in this world. So starting with the base number of 1940, this command block here is always going to remove 1 digit from the power drain scoreboard if the score is any number between -2 and 1940. Now, the reason why I'm using -2 instead of 0 is so that way there's still a small amount of time between the two numbers where other commands can still power. So this command block will activate the moment the night starts, and once it does reach -2, the second command block on top of it will set the score back to 1940 to let the countdown reset. To add on to that, this next command block here is also going to send an output when the power drain hits 0, and will then remove a single digit from the power scoreboard, which is what shows off how much power we have left. Now, you'll also notice this armor stand with the name 99%, and that's because this is the armor stand that's going to show off the power percentage. So when we're done here, what we'll do is move this armor stand to be in front of the office monitor. That way it makes it look like the name tag is showing up on the screen. Under it though is another command block, and this is what will change the name of the armor stand to fit with the current power level. So if the power scoreboard drops to 98, this command block here is going to change the name of the armor stand to 98%. So now what we need to do is copy this command block and change the numbers for each percentage of power, meaning we need 99 total command blocks to get the armor stand to show off an accurate power meter. Now, this might not have been the most efficient way to do this, but it still gets the idea to work regardless. But all of this is just for the power that drains when we're idle in the office, so now let's take a look at the doors and see how much power they use up. Now, this is almost the same as the first command block we looked at, except this time it will only start to drain power when the door is closed by detecting if the birch button is set in place. But instead of only removing 1 digit per tick, this is going to remove 40. Now, I did some messing around in a test world, and I decided that this was a good number to use for the door power, especially if we were to have all 3 doors closed at once. This works the same way for the other 2 doors, so now let's take a look at the cameras, which also drain power. This time, however, there needs to be 2 different commands, since more power is used if the night vision is turned on. So this first command block here is only going to deplete at a rate of 10 digits per tick if the night vision isn't on, and then will unpower if the night vision becomes active. That's when this command block will turn on, where now it depletes the score at a rate of 20 digits instead. All of this is going to stay active until we eventually run out of power, which is when we want to shut off every resource that needs it to work. So with this new scoreboard called isPowerOn, I've added another prefix command to every command block, which now lets all systems work when the power is on, and then turns everything off when it reaches 0. And these are all of the commands that make that happen, which includes things like teleporting the player back to the office if they were using the cameras, or opening any of the closed office doors, and then starting a short flicker effect of light before then everything goes to complete darkness. And this is when the player will either have to wait for a jump scare to happen or for the time to reach 6 AM. But before we move on to the time system, there's one more feature to the power I want to add, which involves the door controls. Whenever the doors are used, small lights start to appear around the button to indicate how much power they're using. So I want to recreate that for this build, and I think I've come up with an interesting way to do it. Just like with most things we've made so far, this needs an armor stand to work, but not in the way that you think. Every time we close a door, a new scoreboard timer is going to start to see how long the door has been closed for. Once the timer has reached a certain number, these command blocks will start to change the armor stand's name to show off a power meter above it. This is done by using these square symbols, where another one is going to be added to the name until the timer reaches its max number of 200 ticks, where now there's going to be 4 squares above the armor stand. This is then going to stay like this until we open up the door again, where the squares will start to be removed until they don't show up anymore. We can take this one step further, however, by giving the armor stand different teams to join, which will change the color of the name tag. So in addition to adding another square to the name, these command blocks will make the armor stand cycle between one of 3 teams I have set up, with the first one being green, then shortly after that yellow, and then finally red. So now that we've gone over everything to do with the power system, I've moved everything over into the office to let us see what this all looks like. The power meter is now properly displayed on the monitor, and every time we use one of the doors, the indicators that we've just added is going to start to appear after a while to show off that they're using a lot of power. And this of course is the same for the other 2 doors, where if we go ahead and close them, you'll start to see that the indicator is going to appear just above the button, letting us know that that power is currently being used. Now at the same time, you'll also notice that the monitor is also depleting to show off how much power we have left to work with, with, so we'll have to return to the office every so often to see how well we're doing. This now leads us to the final office feature, which is the clock to let us see what time it is. And just like with the power meter, the only way to tell what time it is by having this digital clock on the desk change every hour. This is very easy to set up, as all we need to do is replace the player head with the ones from this chest every time the hour changes. So in Candy's, each night is about 7 minutes long, or 420 seconds, which makes each hour last about 70 seconds total. So in terms of tick speed, we want the time to change every 1400 ticks. And these command blocks are detecting for their own specific time to change the player head to fit with the current hour, which is done by using an item replace command. Then once it hits 6 AM, all of the gameplay mechanics get shut down, and then a title screen will play along with the 6 AM theme to let us know that we beat the night. So with that, we're now wrapping up all of the office gameplay, and it's now time to move on to the animatronics themselves. And though we've already used quite a few command blocks for this, I think this might be my new favorite recreation so far, just because of the amount of detail and polish I've managed to add into it. It's been a lot of fun so far, so let's see how we can finish it up. It makes the most sense to work on Candy first, since the game is named after him. So by using a mix of different armor stands, this is what I've got him to look like. Now behind him are already quite a few command blocks, but all I've done here is set up all of the positions he has when he travels around the building. And even though there's a lot of cameras to go through, the path Candy takes is actually quite simple to follow, as instead of having random movements around the building, he will always take one of two paths to get to the office. And while the path he takes might not be random, the speed he travels around the building is, and all of this here is what decides when Candy is going to move to the next camera. In almost every FNAF game, each character has a difficulty level that ranges from 0 to 20, with 20 being the most aggressive. And these 20 armor stands here represent those 20 levels, because this separate armor stand has a random chance to land on one of these ones, and depending which one it moves to will decide if Candy moves or not. All 20 armor stands have the same tag attached to them, but these bottom 5 ones have different names, which means we can differentiate them from the rest. So the armor stands with different names will be the ones that make Candy move to his next position when the teleporting armor stand lands on them. This also gives Candy his difficulty level, as since there are only 5 armor stands that will let Candy move, it means his current difficulty level is 5 out of 20. And for every armor stand we change the name for, the difficulty is going to increase by 1 until all 20 have the same name, which would then set him to his 20 mode. And the way this randomizer gets powered is by using this timer system here, where every 75 ticks, the armor stand has a chance to move Candy to his next position. So while the timer is going to deplete at the same speed every time, it's not guaranteed that Candy will move every time. So with the randomizer added, I've now made the way for Candy to go to each camera. So if the armor stand teleports to the ones needed, this command block here is going to increase the Candy position scoreboard by 1, which is what determines which camera he moves to. So each one of these command block chains are the same position commands we took a look at earlier, so every time the score increases, Candy will teleport to the next camera in that set order. Now there's a small twist to this, as Candy is able to take 2 different paths to the office once he reaches camera 2, which means we need another randomizer to decide whether he goes left or right. I've gone ahead and activated the system to let us see this happen in real time, so as we just saw, he's going to start out at the main stage, and then he's going to make his way to camera 2, where now he can either go towards the left side at camera 5, or go towards the right towards camera 8. Now for now he's only set to level 5 difficulty, which means it's going to take some time for him to move, but as we can see here, he's going to constantly move around the building until he reaches one side of the office. So once he eventually reaches the office doors, his movement timer is then going to stop, and then a new one starts, this time counting down to when he can jump scare the player. Now this needs 4 different setups to work, as each door has its own set timer, and depending if the doors are open or not, a different outcome could happen. So starting with if the door is closed once the timer has reached its limit, this command block here is going to stop the jump scare counter and then teleports Candy back to the show stage before then starting his movement path again. But if the door is open when the timer ends, that's when we want the jump scare to happen, which involves an entirely new setup to work. So depending which door Candy is at, one of these 2 rows will power to move him away from the door, while also causing the lights to flicker in the office to let us know that something is inside. Then soon after that, the jump scare is going to trigger by locking the player in the office, and then teleporting the animatronic in front of the player as it plays a quick death animation. Then after all of that has happened, every system in the map is then going to get reset to let the player retry the night. So right now Candy is currently standing outside the office door, so if we keep it open, eventually we'll start to see the lights flicker just like that, and now in any second the jump scare is going to play out. Now something I've also added in afterward is a proper death screen, where for a few seconds we're going to get the game over text that appears over the newspaper, before then we get teleported outside the map, where I still need to make the way for us to restart the night. Now for that example, it was completely quiet as I haven't added in any sound effects yet, however that will probably be the last thing we do after we finished everything else. Speaking of which, there's one more feature left to add in for Candy, and that's his glowing eyes in the cameras and doorways. So for this we're going to be using particle effects on top of Candy's eyes, that way we can see where he is when the night vision is turned off. So if we turn on these commands when looking at the cameras, we're going to get something that looks a little bit like this, where we can just make out 2 sparks in the darkness. Now these are only going to appear when the night vision isn't turned on, meaning when we crouch, those particle effects are going to disappear. So even if we don't know which animatronic it is, these glowing eyes are a good way to know if something is nearby without using as much camera power. This is also the only way to know if Candy is outside the office without using the camera, since there's no door lights in this game. So while an animatronic is standing outside the office, those two particle effects will appear until we close the door, which then forces Candy to restart his movement path, and we can now check the cameras to see if they've left. All of that was just for Candy's movement cycle around the building, which now leaves us with the other 6 animatronics to add in next. Now luckily Candy's the only animatronic besides the rat that can take 2 pass, which means everyone else is going to be pretty simple to set up. So while I won't be wasting time going over everyone else in the same detail, there are still a few unique mechanics that some animatronics have that make the gameplay a lot more interesting. So with all of the other animatronics added, you can now see how similar the setups are to each other by starting with the randomizer and then what happens when they make it to the office. Cindy and Chester, for example, act in the same way as Candy, only that these two will make it to 1 door each to jump scare the player. Now if we take a look at the penguins mechanic, they also only go to one side of the office, but instead of jump scaring us if we don't close the door in time, they'll sit in front of the desk and randomly close one of the doors to drain power, or open one back up and possibly let someone else inside. And the way I've done this is by using a 3-way randomizer that will randomly power one of the door controls whether they're opened or closed. The next animatronic is Blank, who might be the most unique of them all, as instead of roaming around the building, he is a similar mechanic to FNAF 1 Foxy, where he stays in one room, and once he leaves the door must be shut to stop him from breaking in. Now unlike Foxy, Blank isn't camera stalled, so he also has a randomizer like everyone else. But since he only has 4 different positions, I've changed it so that way Blank has to go through each one twice before he moves to the next one. But once he does make it to the window, we'll be able to see his quick animation as he hits the door before then going back to where he started, or if he breaks the glass and gets inside. Finally is Old Candy and the rat, who both once again have set paths around the building. This time however, we're not able to see their eyes glow since both are withered animatronics, which means we have to check the door cameras to see if they're outside. Now while Old Candy can only go towards the left door, I mentioned that the rat can go both ways just like Candy does, so it's going to be really important to check both door cameras every so often to make sure that no one is there. So right now we could technically play through a single night of gameplay since every animatronic and office mechanic has been added, but there's currently no way for us to actually start the night. On top of that, there's also a few more features that need adding in, and I'd like to start with the menu screen. In all of my other recreations, I always start the night by pushing a button in a small room which would then power all of the command blocks. But this time I want to go more in depth with it and properly make a night selection option. So before the game starts, this is the room we're going to be in, and on this wall here are all of the different levels that we can select. Now these signs here are only temporary placeholders as I'll be adding in proper labels later, but for now I just wanted to give you the idea of what I want to work with. So the way I want to select each night is by pressing one of these stone buttons and then pushing the button on the desk, which is what actually starts the night. The first option is the new game button, which starts the player at night 1. Now most of this is just for setting up the difficulty level of each animatronic, which is done by renaming the armor stands in the randomizers that we took a look at earlier. So when we press the new game button, this first row of command blocks here is going to set the night scoreboard to 1, which causes an output to be set from all of these command blocks, which is then going to set the animatronics to the difficulty level for that night. Now the reason why there are so many extra command blocks and why these animatronics are under here is because I thought it would be a fun idea to show off who's going to be active each night by teleporting these armor stands up into the menu room behind the window. So if I go ahead and press the new game button, the window is going to open up to reveal Candy and Cindy, since both are active on night 1. Then eventually more animatronics are going to start to appear the further we get into the game. So once we've selected a new game, all we have to do is press this button and the night is going to start. Now night 1 is a little different than the rest of the game since it has a newspaper intro screen, so before the night starts we'll be teleported into this room looking at the newspaper while the text appears on screen. Then right after that, this system here is going to power, which is then going to activate all of the gameplay commands and teleports the player into the office where the game officially starts. Now all that's left for the menu is to make a system that unlocks the next night after the current one has been beaten, all while setting the animatronics to a higher difficulty level as the game goes on. And now with a lot more added command blocks, all of nights 1 through 6 can now be selected and become available as we play the game. Now each night has its own colored platform that sets the animatronic to a new set difficulty, while also teleporting these animatronics up into the menu room for the night they appear in. And just as I said I would, I added the name for each level by using invisible armor stands, where for night 1 this is going to be the only option available, but once we beat night 1, the other nights are going to start appearing at the block beneath it, where every night after that, the armor stand's name is going to change all the way until night 5. Then once we beat night 5, the night 6 option is going to appear on the other side of the window, which I've displayed in red text. Now at any point in the game we're able to start over back at night 1 again, and this will remove the option to replay the main 5 nights. However, the night 6 option is still going to be available since it stays there once it's been unlocked, that way we can replay the main 5 nights nights and still have the bonus nights available. This will also include the custom night, which unlocks after beating night 6. Now for this I've built a separate room away from the main menu, so that way we have the space to work with to customize the animatronics to our liking. Now the customization isn't going to be as advanced as it is in Candies, but what we're able to do is cycle all 7 animatronics between the levels 0, 5, 10, 15 and 20. Now each individual row here represents a different animatronic, and each individual command block renames the randomizer armor stands to set the animatronic to the right difficulty. So for 7-0 mode, none of the animatronics will be able to move, but for the 7-20 mode, all of them will always move to the next position every time their time is end. And the way we change the difficulty is by pressing one of these 2 labeled buttons, where the button over to the right is going to increase the difficulty by 5 all the way until it reaches level 20, where once it reaches that, it's going to turn all of the numbers red to indicate that this is the most difficult level. Then if we click the button over to the left, it's going to decrease all of the numbers by 5 all the way until it reaches level 0, where none of the animatronics are going to be active. Now if we want to go back to the main menu, I've gone ahead and put a button behind us, that way we can be taken back here and we can replay the main 5 nights again. Now in all honesty, I haven't tried out the 20 mode yet, but I can only imagine how difficult it's going to be to keep track of everyone at the speed they're going to move. But that's now everything to do with the menu, which also wraps up all of the gameplay features for this project, bringing the total command block count to just around 4,100. But with what I've managed to do here, I think that all of the work was definitely worth it. Now what I've quickly gone ahead and done by myself is add in all of the sound effects by using some play sound commands. That way the game isn't pure silence and we're able to listen for the sound cues as the animatronics make it to the office. So with that being said, it's now finally time to see if I can survive a night of Five Nights at Candy's Remastered in this Minecraft world. I hope that you enjoy it, and let's see how we do. So even though I've recreated all 7 nights of gameplay, I think for this I'm just going to be trying out night 6, since it has all 7 animatronics active at a reasonable difficulty that isn't going to be as hard as the custom night. So I'll go ahead and start night 6, and I'm curious to see if I can try my strategy that I used for the original Candies game in this. So what we're going to do is head on over to camera 11, turn on the night vision, that way we can see, and we're going to be paying attention to Blank for most of the night, because Blank is probably the most important animatronic to watch out for, since he doesn't appear in the doorways and has no sound cue for us to listen out for. So I did mention that I did add some sound cues, so we're going to be paying attention to those, so that way we don't have to use the cameras as much as we need to. That way we can conserve as much power as we can. However, right now we can see that Blank is just about to move towards the office, and I'm pretty sure I may have heard someone at both sides. Nope, we're good there. Alright, Blank has moved. Let's go ahead and close that door, and then once he's gone, I'll go ahead and open up that door as well. I think we're good for now. So now that Blank's gone, I'm going to go ahead and check these 2 cameras occasionally. That way I still have a little bit of breathing time to go ahead and see if anyone is at the door, while also knowing that Blank isn't going to be moving just yet. So moments like that, we can see that Candy's appeared in the doorway. No one's at that door. Alright, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is go back to camera 11, and Blank's only at stage 2. Alright, so it's a fine start, 88% power. That was a little bit of a jump in power, however I think we should be okay to start with. Blank's gone, so we'll go ahead and close that door. And pay attention to both sides. Any sound cues. There we go. There's the penguin. There's someone on that side. Let's go ahead and check both cameras again. That way we're safe. So Chest is gone, but Candy is now there. Alright, so nope, now there's old Candy. Alright. So he's gone now. Open up that door. And anyone. Alright. We should be good to go for now. Alright, so 1 AM, just under 80% power. I need to just focus on Blank, honestly. I think I had sound effects there. Let me double check quickly. Yep, that was the rat. Good call. I really need to pay attention to these sound cues and be commentating over this. It's going to be a bit difficult to pay attention to both at the same time, so if I stumble over my words or just ramble on, that is my bad. Alright, 2 people are there. Where is Blank at right now? Blank is just about to leave. Go ahead and close that door. I think I'll do the same thing again. When Blank disappears, I'll go ahead and open up both doors once he's banged on the window. Unless I have time to go ahead and open. Yeah, we're good on that side. How are we over here? We should be good. Alright. Blank's gone. Someone is there. I heard their footsteps. Yep, that's old Candy. Wait for them to leave. There we go. Gone. Alright. And then go back to Blank's camera at camera 11. This is kind of my strategy that I used for Candies. It's not the exact same, as I'm really just paying attention to camera 11 instead of the 2 door cameras, but Footsteps are really important, and I was surprised that I was able to hear them when I replayed Candy's, and just how important they were to pay attention to, because you don't even need to check the cameras that often if you know that an animatronic is at one of the doors just by the sound of their footsteps. So it's going to be really important to pay attention to. However, unfortunately, we don't exactly know when they leave, so we may still need to check the cameras for that. And Blank is about to leave again. Alright, so let's just stick to camera 11 for now. No footsteps. Wait for Blank to leave, and we'll go ahead and check the other two cameras again, just to be safe. Alright, we're good to go. So Blank's there, Cindy and Candy are both at that door. Open up this one now, we're good to go. There is Rat, and someone else. Hopefully that got them both. Yep, there's Chester. 50% power at 3 AM, you know what, that's fine. And old Candy is back again, so we'll just keep that door closed for a little bit longer. We'll go ahead and close that door. No one's there, and Blank is about to start moving again. Alright. I'm gonna... Nope, okay. Stay at this camera for now, and hopefully everything will be fine. Paying attention to any footsteps. There goes Blank. Alright, let's check the cameras now. Yep, Rat at that side, Cindy at the other side. So all doors are closed right now. If everyone can leave so I can save some power, that would be great. That'd be great. Nope. Both doors still closed. This door has been closed for a long time now. I would really like to open it back up. Candy, anytime. There we go. Where is... Blank still at stage 1. Okay, so we're good to go there. Chester is still at that door, so we'll open it up eventually. And now Cindy's at that door. We good there? Alright. So Cindy's there. Penguin's there now. That door is still closed. We'll wait a little bit longer. Someone is there. I can hear the sound effects. Blank is about to move. That door is still occupied. Anytime you want to leave, that'd be great. Alright, I think we're good. Pay attention to Blank. Close that door again. 4 AM. We're doing okay. Close that door. I hear footsteps there. Let's go ahead and check the cameras quickly. Alright, that door's safe now. Open up that one. And everyone's gone. Alright, good. 22% power, 4 AM. And now Cindy's back at my door again. Let's go ahead and close that. Alright, where is Blank at? Candy is at the other door, so we'll go ahead and close. No one's there. Alright, Rat's there. Rat is gone now. No sound effects. Alright. Nope. There, the eye glow. Alright. We're getting close, but we're going to be cutting it close as well. 4 AM with 15% power. Alright, we're good there. Just keep an eye on Blank now. I think that's just going to be the best thing to do. I'm going to pay attention to the footsteps. And close that door whenever Blank is left. That side, open up that door. They've left. Alright, good. I don't know who was there. Nope, there's the sound effects back. Okay. 5 AM, less than 10% power. And there's still people at that door, so I have to keep it closed for a little bit longer. Alright, we're good now. Alright. Just stay at Blank and listen for sound cues. We may just end up having to survive the rest of the night during the power out, which wouldn't be... I wouldn't prefer that, but we may just end up having to do that. There's 2 people at that door. 3% power. Alright, let's see how long we can hold it. Not very long, apparently. 2%. 1%. There's still people at that door. Alright, we're just gonna have to wait. Let's just wait for it. I was not expecting to run out of power. But hopefully, we'll be in the all clear. There shouldn't be that much longer left, right? Hopefully. I'm not hearing any footsteps. There we go, okay. I really wasn't expecting to get power out there. But it was still really tense, hoping that no animatronic was going to appear there. But there we go, 6 AM, we managed to beat night 6 with all 7 animatronics active, and that was definitely a whole lot of fun to try out. Even though this wasn't the most challenging gameplay I've recreated, it was definitely one of the ones I had the most fun with. Now don't get me wrong, remaking all of the official FNAF games was also really fun to do, but seeing how fan games like this changed the original formula with new and unique mechanics has been really interesting to make, and still helps me learn new ways to use command blocks and other Minecraft features. Now before we take a look at the jump scares, you might be wondering why I added so much much content to this map when I was only going to be playing a single night. And that's because I went into this project with the idea of releasing it so that way you could try it out for yourself, as after building FNAF 1 through 6, I feel a lot more experienced with command blocks and thought it would be a really cool idea for you guys to finally be able to try out one of my recreations. However, with full transparency, I've run into a few compatibility issues that I'm still working out on how to solve. So while the download isn't going to be available the day this video releases, I'm still going to be looking into how to get it all sorted out, that way I can get this map to release in the near future. But with that aside, let's go ahead and check out the jump scares. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is now going to wrap it up for today's video. I really do hope that you enjoyed it, as it was a lot of fun to put this build together. If you did enjoy and you're interested in future projects of mine, then be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe with notifications turned on. That way you know next time I upload, and you can also help the channel to continue to grow. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will of course see you in my next video.